National Symphony Orchestra. I'll go in order of sequence. Of course, Buzz Aldrin. The Administrator of NASA, Charles Bolden. And moderating the panel tonight, Bob Jacobs, NASA's Deputy Associate Administrator for Communications. I also wanted to point out, in addition to our esteemed guest, a few other things I wanted to mention. We have 10 Wolf Trap social media contest winners here today, one of whom came all the way from Michigan specifically for this event. We have 25 official NASA social media, I don't know, astronauts, tweeters, people. They're going to be live tweeting tonight's events on behalf of NASA, and if you are out sitting on the lawn tonight for the concert, please follow hashtag #NextGiantLeap to follow NASA, the NSO, and Wolf Trap. So without further ado, what you're here to hear, here's our great panel. Thank you all for coming.
Wow, what a crowd. I thought this was going to be a small thing. Lots of people out here, so thank you for coming out. Really appreciate it. You know, we've been really active in social media for a long time, really since about 2008. So those of you who are doing that for us tonight, you're joining a special family. We really like to engage with you. We're glad that you're a part of it, and thank you for being here. So I'll stop talking now because nobody cares about me. We'll get on to our first, well, my wife does. Okay, thank you. Okay, but we'll start off tonight, of course, you know, we're here to see 2001, A Space Odyssey, deep space exploration, and someone who knows a little bit about that is sitting directly to my left, the Administrator, Charles Bolden, a longtime Marine aviator, but of course a 4-time shuttle astronaut, 2-time commander, and of course is helping direct us on our next giant leap. And the big question that a lot of people end up asking us is, why Mars?
Why Mars? And I'm going to let Buzz talk about it as much as I, because he and I have talked quite a bit about this topic. We both believe that Mars is what we call the ultimate destination for humanity right now. I have my granddaughter McKaylee over there, and McKaylee always cautions me that Mars is not the ultimate destination. It's intergalactic travel. But I said, McKaylee, you know, I can only handle the solar system. So Buzz started this when he and Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. And as I'm certain he's going to tell you, that step on the surface of the moon was intended to be a precursor for humanity going farther into the solar system. And what he and I would both like to really see is some of the young people who are sitting out here in the audience who are my granddaughter's age and like freshmen in high school and below, be among the first to take Buzz's place and set foot on another body off this planet. And so that's ultimately why that is NASA's next destination. President Obama has made it very easy for us because back in 2010 he set it as an objective for us. The Congress of the United States, believe it or not, agrees with the President. To demonstrate that they agree, they put it into the Authorization Act of 2010. So NASA has 2 big things we're trying to do. Our next small step is to try to capture an asteroid by 2025 and put humans with that in lunar orbit. We'll use lunar orbit and the infrastructure there as a stepping stone to get onto Mars in the 2030s. And that's all I want to say.
Can we talk about that?
We can. You
Sure.
can talk about anything you want to talk about. Yes, you can talk about anything you want to talk about.
One point though, when often we're asked, you know, what's your favorite planet? And people will say Mars or Jupiter or Earth. Yeah, I was about to say, because we'd like to come back. You know, we'd like to make a round trip, but Buzz in talking about Mars, that's not necessarily the case in terms of pioneering the red planet. You're not necessarily, doesn't have to be a 2-way trip, does it?
I want you to get used to these glasses, because my son wears glasses, and I put these on, and they're like, Jesus, I look just like him. But I gotta get a new pair of glasses like hers.
Just a favor, stand up for a second. Just let everyone kind of.
So that everybody knows who you're talking about.
Actually make these for the kids.
But you've really talked about the ultimate pioneering of Mars, which is go and stay.
It's could be called a settlement. Could be called a colony. But you know, I'll bet you that you could still call it a settlement or a colony by going there, coming back, going again, coming back. And then you say, you know, that's not a bad place. I think we ought to settle it, right? So that's what settlement or colony means to me, that you can change your mind. I took the liberty of beginning to use one of Charlie's words a bit more of pioneering, but I'm going to add it to my word of permanence, pioneering permanence. Now, you can ask a big company, Boeing, Lockheed, what's their plan to get to Mars? And I suspect I know what it is, because I know what some of the latest NASA design reference missions are, because I have read them. And it's not the way I see it. I remember going over to Cambridge in England to talk to Stephen Hawking.
Name dropper.
Well, see, I had first met him when he was visiting Pasadena. And that was shortly after he had issued a statement that said the Earth has about 200 years, as he sees it, for us to establish a off-Earth civilization. Now, I don't know whether he's talking about pestilence, nuclear war, asteroid impact, or cockroaches taking but I went up to it and I said, you know, we can do better than 200 years. I think we can maybe 30 years. I recently have come up with a question, and I would really like for somebody to tabulate an answer that makes sense. How many people do you think would be in a lander landing on Mars? Let's say on the first trip somebody lands.
Put it out there.
No, I'm asking you.
Oh, you're asking me? Oh. Well, since I have to live within the confines of budgets and other things that these folk know about, you know, our plan right now is to have a lander that has anywhere from a crew of 2 to 7. And, you know, and the question I would ask you to answer for some of the young kids is, because eventually they're going to want to ask us about robots. Because they're going to want to say, and I will ask the question for the young lady back here, why should we go at all when we can send robots? And I have an answer, and I know you have an answer, but I think they'd be interested in hearing from you why you think it is that why do we need robots? But why are robots not the ultimate answer for settlement on Mars?
Who is we?
We meaning us, human beings. Why do we need to send humans? This is a question I get hit with all the time.
Well,
as the NASA administrator, why do you want to put astronauts at risk?
Now, we're talking about we, the United States.
No, I don't. I talk about we as humanity. We talk about this all the time. I don't. I know I work for you all. I seriously do. I'm a civil servant. I work for you. But I think it's really important for most of you to understand that at NASA we work internationally, and we pursue the kind of stuff that Buzz really does believe in, which is if we're going to go off this planet and settle other places, and the place that we both agree is Mars, it is going to have to be with other nations. I use the International Space Station as a great example today because it's a mini United Nations, and I think the space station is a model for the way that we could travel to Mars. And
Well,
settle.
if you really mean what you're saying, and I say we means the United States, and you say it means the world, it must mean
China.
that other nations want to go too.
You're gonna.
Okay, so if we don't go, the Chinese are going to go, right?
Nobody's going to go if we don't go. The point that everybody should understand is we're having a friendly family argument here. And because I really want all of these folks to understand that we really are the leaders of the world right now in terms of exploration and science and technology development. And we are. No one, who else has landed something off this planet? Who else is? Buzz is the only person in this forum who has ever lived off this planet. There is one first person, of the two surviving today, and that's him. And we are here this weekend to celebrate the 45th anniversary of his landing on the moon. And this is
I want to know, did you write that script?
No, we went off topic for it.
We do have more important things, but obviously I've given this an awful lot of thought. And you can sit and say, okay, now we go and we come back, or we don't go. Let's say we go, when we take, you know why 7 is a good number?
That's all we can get in that space program.
I wish you could get 7 people, but it's an odd number. See, when you have a difficult decision, if you have 6 people, it could be 3 against 3, and you won't make a decision. So you got to have an odd number. That's what the psychologist told us a while back. Right, now I'm real serious, because we can talk about going somewhere and what are the benefits going to be, and we can talk about why we, America, should go back to the moon, and why maybe we shouldn't go back to the moon. But let's get to Mars. Now, let's say we got a good sized spacecraft. We've got 7 people in there. So, and it's international. But it's going to be led by the United States. Now, we're going to land 7 people on Mars, and they're going to stay until Earth catches up with Mars again, and it's on the order of a year and a half, and we're going to bring it back. Right?
No, not necessarily.
Well, he's been listening to me.
I have. That's, we're supposed to be.
But not everyone feels like that. Now, I want to ask you to think about the billions of dollars, not just the United States, but countries around the world have spent to put those 7 people on Mars. Okay? We're going to bring them back. I want you to think about what they're going to do when we bring them back to continue to earn the billions of dollars that have been spent on getting them there. And they're not going to get home for nothing. I mean, that is expensive too. Much more than you'd like to know. But what are we going to do? Now, you have to realize that on the way back, the second crew has gone. And we're about halfway there when the first crew is about halfway back. So don't get in your mind that that crew coming back is going to help to train the next crew. Because we got professional trainers that trained that first group of 7 before they went there. And these professional trainers are going to be watching damn near everything those 7 guys do while they're there. Because we want to know what is the thing that humans can do over there. Okay, so these are professional trainers. They're going to be the ones who train the second crew, not the guys that come back. Well, what else can we do with those 7 people?
Actually, I'm taking a little sidebar here because you brought up an interesting point in who's training them. When you were going to the moon, how much were you paying attention to what was happening during Apollo 10 before Apollo 11 went? Because it was a dry run.
We stole her Capcom. No, I'm not kidding. Charlie Duke was really impressive on Apollo 10. We didn't believe those other guys.
Kind of bring it back to the film.
Yeah.
2001. Did you allow yourself at the time to get into the film? Did you notice any, what was the film like compared to the real
First time
thing?
I saw
You were there?
2001?
Yes.
It was before we went to the moon. I believe it.
What was the real thing in comparison?
You're not gonna like it.
No, that's okay.
I fell asleep.
I have to ask this question. Did you fall asleep on the way to the moon or looking at the
Yes,
movie?
we did that too.
Okay, so you fell asleep in the movie. Okay, I got it.
One question, I want to pull Emil into this because we were talking earlier. When Stanley Kubrick was beginning production of the film, because these iconic scenes with these classical pieces, Strauss and what have you, I can't hear some of those things today and not think of that movie. But at the time, he was actually thinking of scoring, having an original score for it.
Exactly. He commissioned the composer who wrote the film music to Cleopatra and to Spartacus, Alex North, to write a whole soundtrack. MGM wanted a new soundtrack for 2001: A Space Odyssey. And while this composer wrote the entire score, he decided right before the premiere to use his score that he put together, his classical score.
He
So the
originally
opening,
asked Roger Waters to do it.
Oh, really? Yes. Oh, but you can find there, somebody has, Jerry Goldsmith has recorded Alex North's score, so you can actually listen to it and see what you think. But it's amazing when you hear that opening the 2001 fanfare, as we know it, by Richard Strauss. It was a totally obscure piece of classical music. This film made it one of the most famous pieces and most identifiable pieces of orchestral music in orchestral music history. Sadly, Alex North only found out that Kubrick did not use his score when he went to the premiere. He felt very bad and very, he said it was one of the most humiliating experiences of his life. But I think Kubrick was a little bit of an unusual fellow. But what he produced, I mean, this transcends science fiction. There's a marriage of imagery, silence, and abstract modern music. He also used the abstract music for the light tunnel is by a Hungarian composer named Ligeti. And Mr. Ligeti found out that his music was used in 2001 also after the premiere because he didn't ask permission. But he also made his music very famous because he was an obscure modernist, modern composer. And just the genius of what Kubrick did in this marriage. And I think it was really, in the dressing room, I was chatting with Buzz, I thought it was just fascinating that,
Is he still alive, the guy who wrote that?
No, he died a couple of years ago. But actually it made him very wealthy and very famous. But I thought it was cool that in the year 2001 you met Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah, I was on a cruise ship. I spent the whole day in 2001 with Arthur. I was going to do that again in 2004. There was a tsunami.
So this is 2 years ago. Charlie was here right 10 days before the landing of Curiosity on Mars, and we had a short film made by Duncan Cobb that we showed before the planets that we had in association with NASA. And I remember that so clearly, and the technology of that looked absolutely crazy. It's like, there's no way this could work. And we had the film in a shortened version, of course, and animated with music by Bizet, introduced by Charlie Bolden, and then I was so fortunate to be at the Jet Propulsion Lab on the evening that it landed successfully. And I think that speaks loudly, so loudly, for the future of what Americans can do with our advanced technology for exploration and for mankind. And it's such a thrill that you all are here to see this monumental film. And we've had many associations with NASA over the years. The National Symphony Orchestra, I think, has the closest association with NASA of any orchestra in the country. Yeah, the socks are amazing. If any of you think of trying to fall asleep during 2001, just remember Buzz's socks. But it is such an honor to have this man with us on this celebration and for us to be a part of it. Thank you, Charlie.
I'm happy to know you appreciate songwriters.
Absolutely.
Because I have heard Fly Me to the Moon too many times. Now, my mission director, Christina, would be here, but she's got a 3-year-old mascot, and Logan is kind of due pretty damn quick. So she's not on this trip with me. But she bought me some t-shirts. And there was one that I really liked. As a matter of fact, we've made more and more of them. And it says, "Get your ass to Mars." And that is the name of the song.
Is the song called Get Your Ass to Mars?
Not yet, not yet.
I'll play on it tomorrow.
But I want to have something to do with the words.
We're going to have one final question here, and I'll throw it at Buzz because I know we have to get out of here and time is short. But I'd be remiss if not to talk a little bit about this achievement that was made 45 years ago. You are now, 45 years ago at this time, a little more than 24 hours from doing it. Can you take us aboard Columbia? What was happening as you were, one day away? Were you? Is there too much training? Are you allowing yourself to think about, the enormity of what you were trying to do, or are you just focused on the tasks? What were you doing 45 years ago tonight?
Does the answer have to match the question? I have another answer.
Okay.
The reason that that Christina, and a number of other people have made so much of this 45th anniversary. 45, you know, what's significant about 45?
One less year than I've been married.
50 is going to be very important to me. And I hope, because I'm going to make it quite important to other people too. We did pretty well with these hashtag Apollo 45. If you look at the series on YouTube of notable people. Were you one of those?
Yeah,
I
Charlie.
was one of the non-notable people.
Well, anyway, we asked people to just tell us where they were when the first landing took place on the moon and what did they think about it. And it has been very, very well received. I don't know what we're going to do. Something.
I think we'll do my song, Get Your Ass Tomorrow.
With that, gentlemen, we need to close. I'd like to thank everyone for...
Now, I haven't quite given you my answer.
You might have to get a vote.
Turn the mic
Now,
We have a minute. You've got 1 minute.
there's a request that I have in to the staff of La Maison Blanche. That's the White House. I've been thinking about it for a long time. There were 24 live Americans who reached the moon. And whenever anybody says, well, 12 guys walked on the moon, I say, wait a minute, there are 24 that reached the moon. Now, they're not all alive, but their estate is still there. There's children. And I think it's about time that those 24 people, in a meaningful way, should be given the title of Lunar Ambassadors Retired. This is not for us. It's for the American people to know. It's for the international people to know what happened 45 years ago. And we do that tomorrow or shortly thereafter for first landing crew, then in November for Apollo 12, and Apollo 13, they went to the moon successively for 45th anniversaries. And we did do Skylab. They didn't go to the moon, but we need to pay attention to them, and we did do Apollo Soyuz in the middle of the Cold War. And we don't want China on our space station.
Your minute's up.
But
Yeah.
now, suppose on the 50th anniversary there is a groundswell of appreciation for what came out of the Apollo program. I think the most important is not beating the Russians, but the Cold War did end because Gorbachev realized there was no way that he could build a defense against missiles because he didn't have the industrial capacity that we did. So the space program went a long ways toward ending the Cold War. And suppose that we do, well, Silicon Valley and GPS and a lot of other things. Apollo didn't invent those things, but they kind of came along. Now,
Buzz, we're going to have to
suppose
let someone else take the stage, unfortunately.
Suppose that the next president decides he likes the moon so much. Okay, so now, people are going to be told about the great benefits of the space program 50 years ago, and somebody's going to ask the president, or maybe whoever's the head of NASA, what is our space program now? What is our space program now? Well, in 10, 15 years, we're going to join the Chinese on the surface of the moon by doing just what we did 60, 65 years ago. I don't think that's going to be too popular with the American people.
Before you know